Hello, this is Anna, and we're going to continue on with our discussion of the central nervous system, focusing in on the brain. This particular video will be part 12, and we're going to look at lateralization of your cerebral hemispheres. All right, when we are looking at the concept of cerebral lateralization, the idea is that there is a general, loose specialization where right versus left hemispheres do different jobs or focus in on different jobs, or let's see, what's a lightly focus on different things. Now, if you're like me, for years and years and years, all throughout elementary, middle school, high school, most of college, there's been a lot of discussion and a lot of stuff where we were taught about how the right brain does this and the left brain does this. And it's always presented as very rigid and very definite. And that is, what I can say is most definitely that is not actually how the brain works. These lateralization specializations are they're more weak, all right? There is a tendency for them to specialize, but it's weak, all right? It's not rigid, and it's not definite, and you are not a right brain person or a lateral brain or a left brain or a right brain person. That is it's basically kind of a BS story, all right? It's a myth. All right? So the left hemisphere tends to specialize a little bit more in categorical information, okay? The left hemisphere also specializes more in both written and spoken language. All right, that's probably the most rigid specializations. Okay, everything else is a lot weaker. Okay, the left brain is where you take information and you fragment it and analyze it. Okay. Now, the right brain, generally speaking, is more about representational information, okay? It tends to be more lit up on MRIs when we do things with imagination or when we have insight into how to solve an algebra problem, all right? It tends to be more art and music focused. It tends to be better at recognizing patterns and spatial relationships. Okay? And it's also where there's a little bit more specialization for processing and comparing sensory information like sound, sight, smell, taste, that sort of thing, okay? Again, these are gross generalizations that I'm making here, okay? One thing we do know about lateralization is that there tends to be some correlation with handedness, okay? So people who are right-handed tend to be the left hemisphere is a little bit more dominant, okay, and then left-handed people, the right hemisphere, right-handed people, the left hemisphere is about what did I write here? All right, sorry about that. I was mixing up what I'm saying. I can't understand my notes. Right-handed people. Okay. In right-handed people, the left hemisphere focuses on categorical info in 96% of those right-handed people. Okay. But in 4%, the right hemisphere is more categorical. I hope that makes more sense and what I was trying to garble out a minute ago. Okay, on the flip side, I have lefties. Okay, and lefties, their left hemisphere, okay, is going to be categorical in approximately 70% of the lefties, okay? But in 15% of our lefties, the right hemisphere, I'm just going to abbreviate that hemi, is categorical. Okay? So it can switch up. It's not a rigid thing. It's just kind of there, all right? Anyway, lateralization, all right? Another idea is that how lateralized the brain is differs based on age and sex. So kids have less rigid lateralization. Okay? And one of the places where they've found this to be true is when you look at when bad things happen. So if a kid has a stroke, they are far more likely to have their brains compensate and more quickly have their brains compensate with the other side of the hemisphere. The other thing that's interesting is when they've had children who with severe epilepsy, there have been cases where they successfully took out one complete hemisphere and the person functions. I mean, they've got some disabilities, but they're pretty darn functional. They can do all the normal stuff. That's far less likely to happen if you do that in an adult, okay? So kids have less lateralization, which means they're also more plastic when you have an injury to the brain. They can recover from it more easily. Males tend to have more rigid lateralization, which means when an adult male experiences a trauma to the brain, it's going to be harder for them to recover. They're going to have more functional loss than a female because their lateralization is more rigid. All right, let's look at the last slide, which is a little picture. All right, this is the picture from your book where it's showing you your left hemisphere versus your right hemisphere. And remember, general light specialization, okay? When we look at MRIs and we see people feeling things with their left hand, all right? Actually, that's not a good one. And we see people doing intuitive nonverbal thought, we will see this area lighting up more, and we're not really going to see it that much on the left. But if we see people doing symbolic rational thought, I have no idea what they mean by that, it's going to be more over here. Okay, so you can see even with, you just got these generalizations. So like over here is more verbal memory, which is the left side, because left side is more language dominant. Over here is more memory for shapes, and so forth. Okay. All right, so just some general ideas of how you've got lateralization going on. Actually, this picture is pretty good because it's showing how it's kind of light. So you can see the left vision versus right vision, language comprehension versus recognition of faces and spatial relationships. All right, processing vocal sounds on the right ear versus non-vocal sounds, left ear advantage. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. Again, you are not right-brained and you are not left-brained. That is a myth. Okay? All right, that is the end of this particular slideshow, and thank you for watching.